Hey there, fellow entrepreneurs. Welcome aboard the Ethical Scaling Podcast, your go-to destination for navigating the wild world of online business with integrity and fulfillment. Jay and Ben are going to be your trusty guides, and they're thrilled to have you join us on this epic journey. In this season, we're going to have a lot of fun connecting and chatting with some of the OGs in the online business space, giving you all their stories, the breakthroughs, the playbooks for success, and some unexpected gold nuggets. So grab your favorite beverage, cozy up in your favorite spot, and get ready to dive deep into the art and science of ethical scaling.
Welcome to the Ethical Scaling Podcast. Today we have our, again, super handsome man, Brian Moncada, on the podcast today, from selling door-to-door to managing millions of dollars in ad spend for some of the most famous names in the industry. Brian, super happy to have you with us.
Dude, thanks for having me, Jay. I appreciate it, man.
For those who don't know you, which I would be surprised in our space if someone doesn't know you, for all I would say the thing that is still stuck in my brain from you guys, from ad spend specifically, it's that same ad that is still on your landing page. That ad was epic. I think it was the most viral thing I saw on Facebook a couple of years ago because of how hilarious that ad was and how engaging and how much it did break the pattern. So it's still the thing that is top of mind as soon as I think of ad spend as a company. But I want to go a little bit before that. Like, where did you start, like as an entrepreneur, like in business? I know that you've done some door-to-door sales. So do you want to start there?
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny you mentioned that. Yeah, that was a fun ad that we created. It was the very first ad we ever did. But before that, long before that, my first started as an entrepreneur did happen in college when I did door-to-door sales. My summer going into my junior year of Arizona State University. I had a friend at the time. His name was Drew, one of my best friends, and he had a brother. And his brother was actually, making $100,000 a year at that time. I thought that was rich. I mean, obviously it pretty well is in most parts of the world, actually. And I didn't know anybody who was making that kind of money. And when Drew told me that he was doing all that money in just one summer by knocking doors, I was just like, that's insane. Like, we should go do that. And he's like, I'm going to go out for the summer if you want to join me. I was like, okay, cool, let's do that. So I had no idea what sales was, what door-to-door and anything like that was. But that's when my journey started, because his brother told us to read the book, The Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy. Mm-hmm. That was the very first personal development book I've ever read in my entire life. And it changed my just entire paradigm of what success really is and how anybody could truly be successful if they just change the way they operate their mindset. And so I went out that summer, and I unfortunately can't tell you I made a bunch of money. I ended up coming back with the same amount of money that I left with. So I basically broke even, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot in the process, mainly how to take no and keep on going with a smile on my face as best as I could. And I did make sales. It's just with the cost of living and everything that I was spending out there just to, get by, I ended up basically breaking even. And it was a good start to my entrepreneurial journey. Because again, like I said, I got told no a lot, but I persevered, pushed through it, got some sales. And that's how my entrepreneurial journey started. I then did door-to-door sales again later on. And I learned everything from there.
I have a question for you. Did you guys have the whole thing of ringing the bell, like really ringing the bell in door-to-door sales? Because when I did door-to-door sales, we had that. Like the KPI was 5 contracts a day. And As soon as you did 5 or more, you would ring the bell. And I still remember today, the first day I came to the office was like 10 p.m. And I rang the bell. I still remember the noise and the joy, the emotions of coming to the office and like, yes, I ring the bell today. I did it. I hit the KPI.
So that's where I also learned how important management and leadership is, because we had none of that actually. His brother was a first-time manager. He never managed a sales team before. And so we were his first mentees, if you will. And so there was really no structure. And we were just kind of dropped off into a random neighborhood and told good luck. And he would pick us up 8 hours from now, and we would be, on our own. And no one, what were you selling? Because no one was selling 5 a day for us. We were selling home security at that time.
I did that. That was like, I think I did the telecommunication kind of phone contracts to start with. They were not very, very expensive. So it was not easy because most people didn't do it. And I remember that week I did 5+ every single day of the week.
Yeah.
So I did amazingly well at sales at that time. I actually used a different approach from the one they were using. And then they put me on home security, which was, I think my KPI was just 1. And even 1 was tough. I remember starting with that. I was like, oh man, this is a completely different game, because now I'm not selling something that costs like 50, 100, 150 bucks. I'm selling something that costs thousands, and the friction I'm getting is completely different. But the thing that I've learned from doing door-to-door sales, which I think was very interesting, their mentality was this is a cost-saving thing. So they would go to the poorest neighborhoods to sell them. And I took a different approach. Who tends to be the most greedy? The rich, not the poor. So I decided to go to a couple of rich neighborhoods that I knew really, really well. And I started selling there like crazy. And everyone was asking me, where are the places you're going? Because we've never been there. How are you selling so much? And it's just interesting how sometimes you understand the product and you understand the outcome. You just change who you're selling it to, and it completely changes your performance. But that's door-to-door sales. What was the transition that got you from doing door-to-door sales to then working with Dean Graziosi? I think everyone that is listening to the podcast knows Dean. So it's a big transition from door-to-door sales to Dean.
Yeah. So between door-to-door sales, it's funny because before I did door-to-door sales, I actually tried my first start at entrepreneurship, which was a longboard company, my freshman year going into sophomore year. And I didn't know anything about anything, but that's when I started doing marketing and branding. So I did door-to-door after that. And then I graduated from college and I basically got a full-time job working for a company called Pepsi. I was under their Frito-Lay department. So I was going to be a sales manager for them. But 2 weeks into that job, I just felt like if I stayed there, I was going to lose my soul. And everyone there just didn't have any goals and dreams. And they weren't as young and hungry as me to, do something with themselves because they were all older and had kids and everything. And so I was like, okay, I can't do this. And I had Grant Cardone in the back of my head at that time, who I was listening to every day, telling me, you got to get a sales job. You got to do uncapped commission. You got to go work for someone who's got their foot on the gas and is pushing a big vision. And so I heard that. I quit my full-time job after graduating college. My parents thought I was crazy. So I went to go do door-to-door sales again. And I was actually knocking doors, but selling solar systems this time in Yorba Linda, California. So I was doing it for an entire summer. And again, I was like selling, but for some reason, I just wasn't making more money. I was actually tapping into my savings account. At the time, only like $5,000 or something as a new college graduate. And I was like, the math isn't mathing. Like I'm just not either not good enough or like the opportunity this isn't for me. And so I remember reading the book, Millionaire Success Habits by Dean Graziosi in the months leading up to going out to Yorba Linda to do door-to-door sales. And I just remember listening to a podcast he had with Lewis Howes. And I was like, man, he kind of sounds similar to me. He's got a lot of energy. He's got a lot of emotion. He seems like he's really dialed in with marketing, and he's got an online business. So I bought the book, Millionaire Success Habits, changed my life. I learned exactly what my why was from his 7 levels deep exercise. And it completely transformed my entire paradigm of why I wanted to make money at that time. And that stuck with me. And then when I was in door to door and I was just like, the math isn't mathing. I remember one night I was literally on my twin-sized blow-up air mattress in this Linda house with 12 other people doing door-to-door sales, all bunked together in different rooms. And I just had the thought, I was like, why don't I just go work for Dean Graziosi? Because I saw the book over there on my bookshelf that was on my table. And I was like, why don't I go work for Dean Graziosi? I mean, he's got a business online. He's got his own marketing thing. And then I had that thought. And at that exact moment, I went over to my laptop. I just whipped open my computer and I just scraped a bunch of emails from his website using emailhunter.io. And I just mass emailed his whoever was in his company, including him, I guess. And I just said, hey, I don't know if you guys are hiring or not, but here's what I'm currently doing. Here's what I can offer to you and your company. I'm going to keep following up with you until I get some sort of interview. So let's see. And then funny enough, the next day I got a reply back from, at the time, Jeremy, who was his CRO. And he said, hey, dude, crazy, but we're actually looking for someone to help us with marketing. Can you come in for an interview tomorrow morning? And here's the trick. Okay. The marketer in me knew that I had to do this. In the email I originally sent them, I told them I was already in Scottsdale, Arizona. Because if I mentioned I was doing door-to-door sales in Yorba Linda, they probably wouldn't have taken me as seriously. But because I said I was in Scottsdale, they asked me to come in for an interview tomorrow morning because they thought I was in the area. And so I said, yes, I'm there. And I ended up quitting my job that day, packing my bags in my car that night because all I had was a bunch of different, I was like a nomad at the time. I packed my car with all my things. And then I drove out the next morning for the interview. And at the interview, I said, I'm here. Like, my car's out there. It's got all my stuff. I'm the guy for the job. Like, I'm here. And of course, I just committed first and figured the rest out later. And I ended up getting hired on the spot. And I ended up working for Dean for almost 3 years after that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. You still stay with them for a very long time. 3 years. It's like nowadays is like an eternity because people don't stick with companies for that long.
Yeah.
And from there, like working with Dean for 3 years, what was the next transition that got you to start ad spend?
So it actually happened kind of naturally because when I was working for Dean the first entire year, I was just soaking up everything. I didn't know anything about direct response marketing, didn't know anything about sales funnels, didn't know anything about copywriting. You know, I had my own YouTube channel around fitness at the time that I was branding myself as this, skinny guy who's building muscle to inspire other young men that were, similar to me that had low confidence. So I had my own following and I was kind of doing my own thing online, but I didn't know how to make money. Like, I just didn't know how to actually get customers and clients. And so everything was new to me in this new internet marketing realm. And so, but I kept hearing Dean say the same thing over and over to other people when I was working for him, his clients. And he would say, I owe all of my success to masterminds. Like, I owe all of my success to masterminds. Being around a like-minded group of individuals all working towards new goals is what helped me to get to where I am today. And I still pay for masterminds. And I was like, huh. And you just hear it so many times to eventually where, I'm not making the best amount of money with Dean at the time. My goal was to make, 10K a month. I thought, at that point, that's how I'd be able to hit my goal of 100K a year. And I just took that advice to heart. And I said, okay, if he owes all of his success to masterminds, why don't I just invest my money that I'm getting from this company into paying for my mastermind that I can go figure out how to add more value to his company and make more money. And so I ended up flying out to Canada for the first time and sitting in on an actual fitness business mastermind because I was like, okay, well, I can maybe still do the fitness stuff on the side and then learn some things that I can apply to Dean's, company. At that mastermind, when I get there and I'm introducing myself to the rest of the room, there's about 100 other fitness coaches in there. And I'm like, hey, I'm Brian Moncada. I run ads currently for Dean Graziosi on YouTube. If you've seen his ads on YouTube, I'm the guy behind those. My goal is to build my own fitness business. I want to accomplish X, Y, and Z. And then Vince Del Monte, who's the actual business coach at the time, on stage in front of everybody tells me, yeah, dude, well, you got to cut the fitness stuff out. And I was just like, what? And he's like, we'll talk at lunch. And he comes up to me at lunch and he's like, hey man, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I don't know. I mean, I came here to help build my fitness thing and get that off the ground. And he's like, well, dude, you're stepping over dollar bills to chase pennies. Like, you run ads for Dean Graziosi. Like, everybody in this room needs that for their business eventually. Like, you could be the guy that helps guys like me get more clients using the skill you're already doing for Dean's company. And so at the time, it was very hard to hear because I didn't want to have somebody else sort of like dictate my future, if that makes sense. But I was just like, well, I paid the money to come out here, to sit in for the weekend and see if this makes sense. It wasn't exactly what I was expecting to be told, but I would be kind of stupid if I didn't listen to the guy that I just paid money, and he's got more success than me. Dean told me he owes all his success to mastermind. So let me just be ignorant and listen and just say yes to what he's telling me, right? Surrender, if you will. And I did. I joined the mastermind on a whim. I didn't know how I was going to get clients or make money, but I just said, I'm going to do it. So I paid whatever the fee was, which was almost like more than half my income at the time. And I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I ended up signing my first client, a few days later after that mastermind for YouTube ad services. And so slowly I started getting more clients. I was charging like 1K at the time, didn't know how to price myself or how much to charge. And I started getting clients just organically through my network and through people hearing about me working for Dean. And eventually got to a point where I was making more money on the side than I was my full-time job, and I was working less on the side. And, at that time too, in the background with Dean's company, we went from a team of 5 people, which was like me, Dean, and 3 other people on the marketing team to like 100+ people. So that's when Dean partnered with Tony Robbins and Russell Brunson, and mastermind.com took off, and we scaled pretty significantly. So like I didn't really have that one-on-one mentorship with him anymore like I used to. And there really wasn't a growth path for me at that time to continue growing in the company. And it just made sense to where I was like, the guy that chases 2 rabbits catches none. So I was like, okay, this is my opportunity. It's now or never. And it was a very hard decision. Like I was wrestling with this decision to quit that job for months because I didn't want to do it. I literally did not want to do it. But as the universe has it, I actually ended up taking a microdose of shrooms one day on Father's Day. And I ended up just having this epiphany, which was very emotional. I ended up crying my eyes out because I realized I was not chasing my full potential. And I was just pushing it down into my gut and trying to just forget about it. But I realized I had to make a decision and go all in on myself. Otherwise I would regret it. So I quit my job 2 weeks later for Dean. You know, I hired, or they ended up hiring someone that I ended up training before I left. So he was taken care of. And I just went all in. And I quit my job, keep in mind, 2 weeks before COVID shut the entire world down. So here I am, right? Thinking, okay, cool. Here's the journey. And then 2 weeks later, I'm stuck in my house. I can't leave. I don't know what I just did. I just gave up $10K a month in salary. And now I'm all in on my own. And I don't know what's going to happen with the world. And I told myself, okay, well, this could be the greatest story that you tell on podcasts like this one day, or it's going to be a story that you're going to kick yourself in the butt for a long term. But either way, it's going to make for a great story. So that's how adspend.com got started. It got to a point where I just had to go all in on myself.
But you end up like making it like very, very interesting for people to want to work with you. Like people were, I'm not going to say chasing you, but the referrals you were getting from the quality of the work you guys were producing was very impressive, because you work with some really big names in the industry for quite a long time. Because I remember like I would see an ad here and there and I would say, this looks like Brian's work, because there is some kind of vibe and energy on your ads. I would say like, this looks like Brian's work. I don't know if it was or not, but then I searched and I remember, I think you work with Sam Ovens, Jordan Belfort, Frank Kern. So if someone is a little bit younger in our industry, they might not know all the names, but if someone has been in the industry for at least 5 years, they will know all the names you've worked with. Probably you've worked with most of the names they remember as OGs in the space.
100%. Yeah. And it was just through doing good work and I was just literally trying to be a servant to as many awesome people as possible. And it was a blessing. Like these were people I looked up to. Like, again, I didn't know anything about direct response marketing. So to work with Frank Kern, I worked for free. Like I didn't charge him anything, because I was like, dude, if I just do good work for him, everything will happen naturally. And it did. He gave me like 12 referrals. That's how I got Roland Frazier as a client. And then Roland Frazier asked me to speak at his mastermind. And then that led to more referrals. And you just keep that compound effect going. And everything just happened through word of mouth and referrals initially without any ads.
And then I've been part of like 3 or 4 masterminds, and every time I open the bonus section, there's going to be a Brian YouTube training, Brian's YouTube training. And that's another thing. It's not only speaking at events, you actually got inside some of these content portals, LMS type of structure, where they have their main content and then have some bonus content that it's Brian's content. So even that hard to track and hard to measure exposure just built even more momentum on what you guys were doing. I want to make sure that our listeners go beyond your origin story, which I would spend the whole hour talking about your experience. But there is just one small piece you mentioned that I think it would be cool to expand a little bit more. You talked about the masterminding and the ability of you to outgrow your identity by spending time with people that are either doing the same thing you do or trying to do, or spending with people that have outgrown some of your goals as well, and they can serve as inspiration and give you frameworks. What were some of the big lessons you've learned from being part of these masterminds?
Yeah, it's funny. The biggest lessons and takeaways I've gotten were not necessarily in the presentations, but in the actual conversations we were having outside of the room. So like just being around other people who were like doing similar numbers or even farther ahead of me, and to be in the proximity of them to show me, okay, like if I just keep doing what I'm doing and I just keep showing up and learning, I can get to this place eventually. And it was more around like the exposure to like what's possible. Like also being able to travel and get to places I've never been to before. So there's just so much new experience happening and so many insights and like takeaways. But I think the biggest thing is like the constant investment into yourself is always worth it. Like I continue to invest in coaches and masterminds today because I know that like that's how I got here. And like if I don't do that, I'm not going to continue growing because I'm going to be around people that aren't growing either. Like I want to be around people that are in the know. So continuing to invest in yourself, never stop learning, and being around other masterminds where people are on the same path as you is the easiest and most biggest takeaway I've gotten. So it's just continuing to double down on your own self-development is honestly the highest ROI one that I've learned.
And it's interesting because people always look for the tangible ROI.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big mistake. I remember this, like my first high ticket purchase, Cole Gordon was actually the one closing me, which is a very funny story that I'm going to save for later. It was a 3-call close, which probably not Cole's style, but I was very stubborn. I was very scared to make such a big investment. And I stand for client success. That's what I do. I do consulting for client success. I've built a software for client success. And the client success for that program wasn't great. And everyone knows it's not great. And I remember someone asked me this in front of a lot of people intentionally, Jay, how would you rate your experience at that company as a client from 0 to 10? And I think I gave it an 8. And everyone was like, I don't believe you gave it an 8. Like their experience was not good. They got a lot of complaints. I was like, depends. The experience, what do you mean by experience? The client experience on the tangible deliverables might be a 4 of a 5. But I met Ben at that mastermind. Yes. I connected with Ben. We became friends and we started a business together. That wouldn't have happened if I wasn't there. Are you discarding the value of the byproduct of something you did that is not the direct tangible thing you expected from that mastermind? Not only like all the people I know in my network, 90% of them, I met them at that mastermind as well, at that program I was part of. So when people rate the experience and they just rate it emotionally without looking at the second and third order consequences, you're missing out on most of the ROI you could get out of any experience. Even when you think about clients, even about your service, I'm going to get help on YouTube ads. Sure, that's one thing. What about the help you give them, how to think about the business? What about the help you give them, get them to think about their business model and the offer and the positioning of the offer and how they want to deliver the offer? People don't think outside the box and they get so attached to a tangible outcome that they actually end up missing out on all the potential benefits they could get from an offer. I just want to highlight what you said because I think it's very important for people that, oh, I didn't get what I was expecting from that program. Okay, cool. That's valid. But could you have gotten more and you just didn't because you didn't look for opportunities?
Yeah, I met some of my best friends to this day from these masterminds that I've referred business. They've referred business to me. We've had lifelong memories together. Like we've done business deals. It's like the intangibles of the actual investment is like, I remember I paid $1,000 to Bob. Well, at the time, I thought it was a course. It was a Bob Proctor Law of Attraction course, so I thought. But it ended up being $1,000 to have Bob Proctor just read the book, The Science of Getting Rich to me. And then I ordered the book, The Science of Getting Rich, and I was like looking at Bob just reading it for $1,000. And I'm like, oh, and I remember writing the refund email. I'm like, I want a refund, blah, 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 blah. I never sent it though, because I was like, if I send this, I am not showing up as the person that maybe is going to be the person that can take something even when it's not exactly what I expected. And so I just said, you know what? I can just listen to this in my car when I'm driving and just continue to feel so I don't have to read the book physically. And I kept listening to that book and I was like, I actually got the benefit from it. So you can find ways to get it, obviously. And like you said, I think it's a really good point that you mentioned.
Another thing that I remember, I think it's worth highlighting, was remember that event you were with Sam Ovens as well? I think it was for Quantum. I think it wasn't planned for you to go on stage, right? At that event. Do you want to tell that story? Because I think that one was even more impressive than the one you just told me. You were a client. You were a Quantum client, right?
Yeah, I was a Quantum client. I joined the mastermind. This was my first mastermind I've ever attended for Quantum. So I'm the new guy in the room. No one really knows me. And I introduced myself. At that time, YouTube ads, everyone wanted to learn how to do it as well, like because they were all tired of Facebook at that time. And so Sam ends up coming up to me at lunch and says, hey man, do you want to talk about YouTube ads? It seems like everyone kind of wants to know, what you can maybe teach them. And it seems like I don't know YouTube ads, so you can teach them. And I was like, yeah, why not? Let's do it. I just said yes. And then sure enough, he gives me a floor for like an hour and I just do an entire YouTube ads masterclass. And I just share everything I know. And I wasn't expecting that. I don't think he was even planning it. It just happened naturally. And it was all because I just was a client of the mastermind, and I was the person in the room.
And then you guys did WeTube, right? At that
Yes.
time, you did a collaboration.
So then what happened is at that time, and I didn't know this at the time, but Sam was mentioning he was preparing to launch a new sort of like consulting accelerator 2.0 or up level 2.0. And it was going to be around YouTube ads. And so that's why I joined the mastermind, because I was like, what does Sam know about YouTube ads that I don't? If I can just learn one thing that he's doing that can help me and my clients, that'll be worth it alone. So I joined to learn from him about YouTube ads. And then come to find out, he's never run YouTube ads. And so he was kind of learning from me as well. But he ended up a month later reaching out to me on school and saying, hey, I have an idea. Can you chat? And I said, yeah. We got on a Zoom call, and he was like, so I'm doing this up level 2.0. It's going to be around YouTube ads, and email. I'm going to call it WeTube. And I thought it'd be fun if I, have you partner with me and teach YouTube ads. Is that something you want to do? And I was like, yeah, of course. And again, wasn't expected, but it was just because I was in the right room at the right time with the right people. And that turned into a partnership that dramatically increased the brand equity of our company and just exposure in the overall marketplace, and a ton of obviously monetary benefits as well that came with it. So it was really, really amazing.
It's so impressive how things can change in a small moment like that. It's just being there and having the opportunity in front of you. One thing that we like to do in our episodes is to give our listeners some playbook for success. And of course, we have to start with YouTube. We were going to talk about more stuff, but can you give us some like a playbook, a baseline on how to think about YouTube ad mastery? Because most people look at YouTube, even myself, and they think, oh my God, this is a black box. I don't know what to do with it. And it's a never evolving black box, which makes it a little bit more difficult. But I think there are some core concepts and principles that you guys are really good at, because you understand the dynamics of the platform. Forgetting the ad piece and the configuration piece, I'm just thinking from a concept principle standpoint, how to get the right hooks, how to get the attention, how to keep them engaged, and things like that.
Yeah, 100%. So at the highest level to start is, I like to explain it as this, right? YouTube is the new TV, and YouTube ads are the new TV commercials. I don't know about you, right? But I watch YouTube on my actual like TV. Like it's just YouTube now. It's YouTube TV. And so when you think about YouTube as the new TV and YouTube ads as the new TV commercials, you have to also think about that client experience, the viewer experience. You see, with Facebook, it's more interruption-based marketing. You're scrolling, you're kind of bored, you just want to look for stuff. With YouTube, you're trying to watch something. And so to get somebody to click on an ad when they're not expecting to click on an ad, you have to hook them very rapidly. Now, the cool part about YouTube ads is with YouTube ads, and they've released a few features now that are very similar to what was working in the past, you can actually run an ad. Let's say you're selling client success, obviously coaching, right? To coaches like myself or agency owners like myself who need help on their back end. If they're watching a video around how to improve their LTV, their back-end ascension, their retention, their client success metrics on YouTube already from, let's say, Cole Gordon or Ethical Scaling or Ravi Abuvala or any of these popular influencers, right? With your YouTube ad, you can literally show that ad to that person watching that YouTube video, and your ad plays in the first 5 seconds before the video actually starts, before they can skip. And so if you say, hey, if you're struggling with client success and you have clients, you have no problem getting clients, but you have a problem keeping clients and actually getting them to continue paying you, then don't skip this ad, right? Immediately, you're going to be hooked, because if you're someone who's already dealing with those pain points, that's where YouTube ads can be so powerful, because the hook is the most important thing. And so the way we think about YouTube ads is not only are we helping you with the script writing, but we're actually doing the entire creative strategy to make sure that your ads are congruent to the content your audience is actually watching on YouTube. Because if you can show the right YouTube ad to the right person at the right time watching the right YouTube video, the conversion's super easy. And so that's the high level of YouTube ads and the concept around it. I'm happy to explain more, obviously, as well.
And it's much warmer, right? That's also my perception. It might be a little bit more difficult for someone to crack the code, but when you do, first, it's almost evergreen, not like Facebook. So it can be like an evergreen ad that works forever if it's running in front of an existing video that just keeps getting new views every single day. So that's the cool thing, because YouTube rewards videos that are getting views organically anyway. So that's the positive thing. And the intent is also different.
It's
Because
the
like you
intent.
said,
It's
like
the intent.
someone already showed up on YouTube to watch something. They told
Yes.
YouTube, I want to learn about this type of content, basically.
Yeah, YouTube is a search-based engine, right? So it's like, who would you rather show an ad to? Someone who might be interested in something, or someone who's actively searching for that topic and that thing right now? Obviously, the second person, right? Doesn't mean the other one doesn't work. It just means that the intent's a little bit higher and easier to get to work faster. And to go back to your point about the actual content and how long ads can last, the average YouTube ad in this specific industry that we found can last an average of a minimum of 6 months, upwards of 3+ years, because, like you said, the more videos that get posted to YouTube around that topic, the more new audiences watch it. And guess what? Your ad just keeps becoming evergreen, every new piece of content that shows up on the YouTube platform. So it can last a lot longer. It's a little bit harder to crack because it's not as easy as writing some copy in an image. It's a video. So there are some, nuances to filming a video that do come in handy with the editing and obviously the on-camera presence. But it's not like you have to be some Hollywood actor and do a movie. You just need to have a very simple script with a powerful hook, an educational and entertaining body that actually addresses their pain points and gives them real value, and then a call to action to get them to watch another video that's actually going to be valuable to them as well.
Love it, love it, love it. It's amazing to see. It's like thinking like a commercial. It's exactly what you just described. It's like thinking like a commercial. Like if you think about a commercial, there was a lot of work needed to create a really good commercial. Yeah. But the investment is worth it because over time you can make it like really scale to a level would be harder to scale with Facebook because ad fatigue on Facebook, it's really tough. Like you need to keep launching new creatives and ads. So one question for you, I'm not asking you to say which one is better, YouTube or Facebook, but how can you make them compatible and have like a synergy between your acquisition media channels?
Yeah, great question. So you want to think about making them synergistic because here's the thing. I learned this from, Ty Lopez actually says a lot of things. And one thing that he said that I really do agree with that made me think about YouTube and Facebook differently is that, he said he's platform agnostic. He doesn't really care what platform is like the best. He just cares about which one ever helps him grow the company the fastest, right? And get as many customers as possible. Now, when you think about your overall marketing strategy for your business, for example, we run YouTube and Facebook ads, right? Like to get clients for our company. And we've done both. Yes, we could just do YouTube, but I know that people that see me on YouTube also are probably going to follow my Instagram. They're also probably going to maybe search for me on Google. And so if I can also hit them on their Instagram feed and their Facebook profile, then guess what? Now I'm becoming, again, more omnipresent, more ever social to where they can continue seeing more impressions. And you and I both know the more impressions someone sees of you, the easier typically it is for them to trust you. And so you want to think of YouTube ads typically as your TV broad top of funnel. And then Facebook and Instagram can be more middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, because Facebook is a little bit easier to get to work faster in most cases, but YouTube lasts way longer. The quality of leads way higher. The actual conversion rates way higher as well. And the LTV you get from that quality of lead and customer is a lot longer than what I've seen on Facebook as well. So to combine both, you want to make sure your YouTube's top of funnel. You're obviously having Facebook for remarketing as well, but you want to look at it as both platforms working together to grow your company. I don't really care if YouTube's beating Facebook one week or Facebook's beating YouTube one week. If both of them are growing the overall revenue and cash and profit, that's amazing.
It's like almost being omnipresent, having your organic channels and your media channels supporting each other. And when I think about, I want to use a word that most people don't like, but brand awareness. I just feel like YouTube is much better to create brand awareness than Facebook. I think people on Facebook and Instagram, they just skip your ads. I don't even remember the name of the pages when I see those ads. But if I see them on YouTube, I do remember the name of the company. Even if I didn't watch the whole video, I will remember the name of the company that was running that ad. So that's another thing. You can create awareness through YouTube and get the conversion through Facebook. Exactly. It doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just might be like they need multiple touch points from your media acquisition channels to actually make that final decision, which I think that's the very interesting long-term approach with using those two platforms.
Oh yeah. Like we don't even like it's an entire system now. It's never just the YouTube ad that gets the sale. Like when you look at the Hyros journey, for example, we act with Hyros. It's like they click on the YouTube ad, they get hit with the Instagram ad on Facebook, and then they also search for you on Google. And then they click an email because they're on your email list now because they opted in. And then they book a call. All right? And then they buy. So it's like, it's never one thing. It's this entire ecosystem. Plus they watch your YouTube videos too. So it's like, it's so funny because when clients come to me and they're like, I just want to run YouTube ads, but they're not posting YouTube content. They're not sending daily emails. They're not building a personal brand. They're just expecting to somehow make money with one ad and to a simple funnel, but there's no nurturing. There's no other content being posted. It's like, dude, you're just playing business on hard mode, man. It's an entire ecosystem here that has to get this to work. And so they all complement each other. It's never just one thing. It's never just the one YouTube ad. The YouTube ad may get them awareness of you, but then it's everything else that happens between the click and the actual call they have.
Do you know what's interesting? And I'm going to highlight something you don't know. So I did the research for all the guests for this season of the podcast. And when I was doing your research and getting ChatGPT to help me, you were the only guest that ChatGPT asked me this question back. Do you want me to search more about ad spend or Brian's personal brand?
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
That's
it
sick.
Means that even ChatGPT, for all the other 7 guests in this season, it connected the guest as the owner, as the brand. But for you, it understood you created 2 different brands, your personal brand and your company's brand. And when I saw that question back on ChatGPT, I was like, what? I was trying to understand, how did it reason with my question so fast and asked me that was a great question. And I was like, search a little bit of both because I want to talk about both. And I think it's a really a good example of how you're doing things well from a brand building perspective. If even ChatGPT understands that you're building the 2 brands intentionally at the same time to get them to basically create synergy between the 2, they each fit each other in some shape or form. But going beyond ads, there is another thing that I think is very interesting. I know that you guys take an approach of the offer is first. Even if you get the best ads, they cannot fix a bad offer. Do you want to expand a little bit of that? Because people, I think, get so attached to an offer that they don't take enough time to think about my offer or my offer when positioned on YouTube versus my offer when positioned on Meta.
Yeah, 100%. Great question. So a good example of this would be a client that we had recently where he basically has a CRM business that helps, sales teams basically choose the right CRM for their sales team. And, on paper, that doesn't sound like the sexiest offer. And when he came to us, he was getting all of his clients through word of mouth and referrals, right? And so it was very easy for him to sell to those people because they were warm introductions. But when he hopped on the offer call with me, I was like, hey man, there's no way that this is going to actually work packaged the way it is to cold traffic on YouTube because no one really cares about choosing the right CSM. They want what the CSM actually gets them, which means to make sure they're maximizing the lead efficiency to actually get a deal across the line and make more money. And so I had to really reframe how he thought about his offer and how he was packaging it, even with his organic content to his personal brand online. So I could show him that, dude, you're not selling CRMs and helping him choose the best CRM. What you do is you help them unlock new revenue that's already sitting there in their CRM that's collecting dust right now by helping them get more efficient in their current sales process. And that's what you do. So I took him from choosing the best CRM as his offer essentially to the offer of, I will help you unlock an extra $30,000 to $50,000 a month within the next 30 days by helping you install this CRM training protocol. And it was like an immediate light bulb moment for him because when he saw that, he was like, oh man, I can actually tangibly give an ROI now when people ask me about my services. And the key is with YouTube ads, especially, right? The more and more the market gets so sophisticated, what I'm noticing is you can't just have the best product anymore. You have to have the best offer. You have to have the best marketing. You have to have the best ads because there's so many competition. And so when you think about your offer on YouTube to cold traffic, you have to think about why are you going to be the person that they listen to? What are you going to say about your product and service that's actually going to get them to click this time as opposed to anybody else? And so you have to lead with that strong offer. So for example, for us, one of my best hooks, go figure, is we will beat your Facebook ads using YouTube ads in the next 90 days or, risk reversal basically. And it's a very clear, congruent offer. Okay, if you're running Facebook ads, you're going to listen because you're probably not running YouTube ads. So already I'm calling out my ideal avatar and I'm giving them the offer so I can keep them listening. And you also want to make sure it's packaged and positioned properly for the marketplace. For example, if you're selling coaching, consulting, masterminds, or services, you're going to have a higher margin offer because to get qualified calls, especially if you're selling to a market that's making, 10K plus, 20K plus, 30K plus, you're going to spend an average of $150 to $200 per call. So you're going to have to spend more money. But if you have more margin, right, you can be able to actually afford that. See, if you come to me and you're like, one of our clients, Harvey, for example, I love Harvey. And if he's watching this, shout out to Harvey. He's still a client of ours in our mastermind. He came to me with the $497 a month software he wanted to sell. And he just wanted to create like some recurring revenue and just grow his LTV. And I was like, okay, it's going to be really hard to make that offer work to cold traffic. A recurring offer on the front end, you're going to probably lose a lot of money. If not, best case, maybe break even. Like that's really conservative too. And he was really struggling with that on the offer call. And I was like, well, you should sell this as a high ticket offer for $6,800 because you should include the SaaS in the program for 16 weeks. And then on the back end, they can continue using it on your actual recurring subscription. That's how you should package and sell this thing. And he left the call and he was like, I'll think about it. I don't know. I still kind of want to do it my way. But he sat on it and he was like, I paid Brian all this money. If I don't listen to him, like I'll just be stuck doing my own thing. Let me just listen to him. And if it doesn't work, I'll go back to my own thing. Well, luckily he listened to me. He packaged it up and sold it. And he's actually sold 20 clients on the $6,800 offer before we even started running ads. So he immediately made his ROI back. And then everything else to cold traffic was a lot easier. And so the margin, the way you're packaging it, the way you're positioning it, the model, all of that is a big, big factor in terms of running ads. Because if you start running ads right now, but your model's one-on-one coaching and you only have so many slots per day, it's never going to scale. And so if your goal is to get to a certain revenue mark, all of these factors, they come into play and we have to work on that first. So offer packaging and positioning is very, very key to running ads in the first place.
Love it. What about more on the entrepreneurship and business model you have and what you've learned? Like a lot of our listeners are also agency owners. What have you learned while building your agency? I know that you guys have multiple products now, agency, hybrid. You have licensed content in other people's portals, but I know you grew really, really fast, your agency. So I'm sure there was a lot you learned by going through that.
Yeah. So, okay. So the question is basically like what, in the, like being the operator of an agency, what are the biggest like lessons, right? Okay. So, there might be a limiting belief that you can't get to 100K a month without ads. And I did that. I did it without ads. I did it through masterminds, referrals, and doing everything that we just talked about. And that actually helped me when I did do ads because everybody already knew me in the industry somewhat. So it was easier to make the ads work more profitably. But I also learned the role of you in the company and who you're better suited to do the role of as an agency owner. So I'm really good at being the face, the brand, the marketing, the sales, the visionary, operations and details and like the day-to-day. That stuff is sort of stuff that becomes monotonous to me. And so you need a good operator. You need a good, essentially integrator. If you read the book Rocket Fuel, it talks about the visionary and integrator. You need both, right? And I believe some people can get tripped up on that and say, well, I'm only the visionary, so I'm only going to do those things. But like, dude, you have to do everything at a certain point, right? At least to a certain extent. You can't just have one thing and that's it. Like eventually you could hire somebody to do it, but you got to understand how it works fundamentally first in order for someone to actually come in and do it for you. And so it's a very big thing that once you get the client, obviously you got to be able to sell other things to them if you want to keep them. And so there's a book called Ready, Fire, Aim. I'm sure everyone's read it at a certain point, but what we forget from that book is that to get from 0 to 1 million per year, you sell one thing to one avatar with one sales process using one marketing channel. And the road that I kept getting hit into with my agency was I just kept trying to jam more people through that one marketing channel with that one offer. But there was so many people that wanted to work with us just at different stages of their journey. And so like you said, we then introduced the hybrid offer, which is our done for you setup offer, where we get a majority of the clients in the market set up on YouTube ads and then consult with them to make sure everything's working properly. That dramatically increased the revenue for the business and the customer base as well. We also have our mastermind because some people don't want the done for you. They just want the consulting and one-on-one access with me. So that's a different offer that has in-person events, community, collaboration, and we hang out and have fun. So like, you also have to introduce multiple offers if you want to go past 1 million a year. And I think the whole one offer, one avatar, one thing is something that you can do to a certain point, eventually to where you have to realize as a business owner, if you want to scale, you have to sell more things to your existing clients and increase your LTV and add more back-end revenue. The biggest mistake I made last year was I was so focused on new client acquisition for the hybrid offer specifically that I actually did take my eyes off the actual back-end agency. And as a result, our MRR dropped. And then it was basically because I wasn't listening to my intuition. I was listening to what other people were saying. Just focus on this one offer, just go all in. But like deep down, I knew, I was like, dude, if we can get them to, like, I just knew if we can get them to continue working with us, everything else becomes easier. And so this year has been a whole realignment around the business because, you listen to certain people, then you got to realize that at a certain point, you got to also listen to your intuition because you know what's best for your business.
I love it. I love it. And I think people do have great intuition, but they just don't listen. And that's the biggest problem I see in our space. And I mean, it's a loud space. So I understand that at times you cannot hear yourself. I would love to move on and do some rapid fire wisdom because I love this part of our episodes. What do you think is the biggest mistake entrepreneurs make when they start running YouTube ads?
Yeah. So by far, biggest mistake they make is number one, they hire somebody to run their ads on YouTube who has never officially ran ads on YouTube before at scale for companies that are similar to yours. And so we get calls booked every single week with clients who have spent an average of $3,000 to $5,000 on wasted ad spend by having some other person or even themselves set up one ad to a completely broad audience with no actual sales funnel or process to get them to actually convert. And they just waste 3 to 5K just like that. The biggest mistake they make is they don't actually take the time to actually pay. And I know it sounds like a subtle pitch for me, but it kind of is, because at the same time, it's like, dude, you're going to just waste more time and energy trying to do it by yourself and hire someone else who has no experience doing it unless you just paid for a playbook that's already proven to get results in your similar industry. And so I've averaged out over the 600 plus clients we've worked with over the last 5 years. It's like, dude, they all spend like 5K on just wasted ad spend just by trying to throw something at the wall, seeing what sticks, not do any due diligence, and they end up coming to book a call with us anyways. So just avoid that if you can.
I love it. I love it. And why do you think most business owners, or even when most business owners, should start thinking about running YouTube ads?
Yeah, great question. So I honestly believe if you're making less than $30,000 a month in your business, you probably have no business to run ads right now anyways, because I believe for YouTube ads, just from a budget standpoint specifically, if you're selling a $5,000 high ticket coaching offer, for example, and you're making $30,000 in revenue, right? If you spend $5,000 on ads, it's not going to hurt you, right? It's not going to break the bank. You're still going to have some profit. You're going to have some wiggle room there. The problem is if you're making 10, 15K a month and you're a coach or agency owner and you're like, you have to get it to work. Like it has to work month one or else you're in a worse financial position. You should not run YouTube ads. I've seen the businesses that do the best with YouTube ads. They're at 30K a month minimum, or upwards of obviously 100K, 30 to 100K a month plus, right? And they can spend at least $3,000 to $5,000 a month on ads and be able to, have a sales cycle that can take anywhere from 7 to 14 days and not worry about losing their shirt. Essentially, they have a budget stockpiled for actually running ads, 30K a month and beyond.
Yeah, it's almost like this is disposable income. If I lose it, I lose it. I'm going to be fine. That's the way we always looked at ads, and we're now doing a bunch of testing on ads as well. And my agreement,
I've seen your ads on Instagram,
like,
actually.
I was like,
the
whatever budget, whatever budget is running, I expect the 0x return, because that will give me peace on my experimentation and the things we're doing and the things we're testing. And I think that's a really good mindset, but I understand that some people might be at the point that doesn't work for them. Another one that is going to be cool for you. What was the first or the biggest mindset shift from working for Dean Graziosi to then becoming the CEO of your company?
Oh man, that's a good question. What was the biggest mindset shift? Yeah, man. I think it's still something that I'm having to learn the hard way right now. It's just nobody's going to come to save you. With Dean, you had the payroll, you had the salary. You could kind of get away with slacking off if you needed to for some days or some things, because I was working there for 3 years. Not that I was doing that intentionally or anything, but it's like when you take the step to doing your own thing and building your own business and planting your flag, it's up to you, man. And that's the hardest, but also most rewarding feeling you can have, because you got to show up. You got to knock those doors. Like I learned very early on, you got to keep going, even when you get told no, with a smile on your face. And you also have to learn how to become a good manager, a good leader, and be able to actually inspire others to actually do work for your business. And even if you don't like managing people, you got to learn to actually deal with it to a certain point, because unless you just want to stay, a solopreneur, which is fine if you want to do that too. Like, to build something big, you got to have a team. So managing people, being a leader by actually embodying leadership yourself first and leading yourself every single day is probably one of the hardest, biggest lessons I've learned. And it never stops. It only stops if you stop. And if you stop, your business is going to stop working as well.
It's funny because I have some really good friends, and the majority of them are not entrepreneurs. And I started my failed businesses when I was very, very young, tried multiple things out of the blue. And they always ask me, like, what keeps you doing the things you're doing? And I always explain to them my biggest realization. There was a moment in my life that I had to make a decision. Do I want freedom or do I want safety?
Mm.
It was a very basic question that I asked myself. Safety would have been stay as an engineer, very limited growth, very safe, paycheck every single month. No one is going to push me. No one is going to ask me for more. They're happy with how much I'm producing. Or I can chase freedom. But freedom comes at the cost of a lot of responsibility and extreme ownership. So when people ask me, oh, if I wanted to do the same, can you handle extreme ownership?
Yeah.
Can you handle uncertainty? If you say, I cannot, there is nothing wrong with you going through the path of safety. I'm not going to judge you. But you cannot expect the returns or the potential upside without you being able to handle the downside.
Yeah.
You're going to have a more extreme approach, more upside, but more downside. Like all of us had tough months somewhere in our business journey, and most people wouldn't be able to sustain those months. They wouldn't have like the capacity and the mindset to endure and be resilient on months where things are really, really hard. I just wanted to highlight that because I think you brought up a really good point. But I think this one is going to be my favorite because I'm going to ask you, because I know you're amazing at this. What's your favorite hack for scaling your network? Because you grew your business based on that. That's how you got ad spend to get known like immediately.
Yeah. Man, pay to be in the room. Literally go to masterminds. That's it. I truly, authentically, 100% to the core of me believe that masterminds are what made me I am today. And it was because I was willing to pay to get in a room with other people just like you. That's how I met you, was at a mastermind. Mm-hmm. And it's ultimately because I was just willing to pay. So it's like, it's funny, in college, I actually was a part of a fraternity, and it kind of was the same thing. I just paid for access to a group of friends and a network and a community that are based around partying, right? And it was like the same thing for business in this case. It was for masterminds. And so easiest hack is to be a part of masterminds and be someone who can actually add value to the other people and not just take. There's a lot of people you meet sometimes that just are all about taking things and like picking your brain. And it's like, I'm just radically sharing everything, and like also my flaws and my vulnerabilities too, because I don't have everything figured out and I don't want to ever claim to be. I'm still on the journey just like everyone here. So yeah, pay for masterminds, get in the room. That's the easiest. It's the most networking hack I've ever used.
Love it. And I think one of the things that I've listened to you saying multiple times, and I love that, is that investing in yourself and your network is the ultimate growth strategy. That's how you've grown your brand, your business. And I love that because I've been through a very similar journey, Ben and there are no shortcuts. It's your willingness to be present, to give without expecting anything in return. And it might sound woo-woo, but things work when you just give without expecting anything in return. Like magic happens when you do that. Brian, if people want to connect with you, what would be the easiest way for them to follow either stuff related to ad spend or your personal brand?
Yeah, two ways. If you want to check out what we're doing at adspend.com, you can just go over to www.adspend.com. If you want to obviously follow me in my journey, talk about all the content we're doing and see all the value we're posting, go to YouTube, type in Brian Moncada. You can find it. It'll be my personal channel, and watch all the content. I have hundreds of videos around YouTube ads, how to get more clients with ads in general. And I'd love to obviously help you.
I would recommend as well, it's an endorsement here, for you guys to at least check the Adman Mastermind because it's amazing. I was present in the one in Dublin. The energy in the room, the people in the mastermind, they're all great, great humans. Like a few of them are client of ours or were client of ours for a while. So it's an amazing crew. Even if you just think about the masterminding, the expansion of your network and potential deals you might do with people in the mastermind, I highly recommend it. I think you have one event coming up soon, right?
Yeah, our next event's coming up June 26th to the 28th here in Miami.
Okay, cool. I'm sure your episode is going to be out before that date. So I'm going to leave all the links under the description so that people can click if they want to check if they can join, if that's still available at that time, if it's not sold out. Make sure to check it out. And if you guys are in Miami, I think you guys will love it. Again, Brian, lovely to have you here. I'm sure for next season, we'll figure out a way for you to bring some more wisdom. And I hope to continue to connect with you guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me, Jay.
Perfect. And for all of our listeners, I will see you on the next episode, and I wish you a fulfilled life. Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Ethical Scaling Podcast, The Masters of the Game. But before you go, remember to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode packed with juicy insights and a sprinkle of laughter. If you enjoyed today's show and want to spread the love, leave us a review and share this podcast with your fellow business mavens. Together, we can create a ripple effect of ethical growth and impact that reverberates throughout the digital cosmos. Until next time, keep scaling ethically, keep dreaming big, and never forget to find joy in the journey. This was Jay and Ben signing off with a wink and a smile. Catch you on the flip side.